Chapter 1: The Boring Village. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled at the foot of a mountain, lived two best friends named Luna and Max. Their village was a peaceful and happy place, but for Luna and Max, life was becoming boring and mundane. Every day, they woke up early, had breakfast with their families, went to school, played in the village square, and returned home for dinner. They repeated this routine every day, and it seemed like there was nothing new to explore or discover. One day, while Luna and Max were sitting on a bench in the village square, they both looked at each other and said in unison, "We need to do something different." They both agreed that they were tired of the same old routine and wanted to explore the world around them. As they sat there pondering what to do, they noticed the beautiful forest that surrounded their village. It was a lush green forest with tall trees, colorful flowers, and chirping birds. Luna and Max had always been told that the forest was dangerous and that they should never venture inside, but they were feeling adventurous and decided to explore it anyway. They quickly finished their snacks and set off towards the forest, eager to explore the unknown. As they reached the edge of the forest, they took a deep breath and stepped inside. The forest was thick, and the air was damp, but Luna and Max were excited to see what lay ahead. They walked for a while, jumping over puddles and climbing over fallen trees. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they heard the sound of a stream and decided to follow the sound. As they turned a corner, they saw a beautiful waterfall cascading down into a clear blue pool. Luna and Max were mesmerized by the beauty of the waterfall and the surrounding forest. They sat down by the pool and watched the water flow, and they felt a sense of peace and tranquility that they had never felt before. It was then that they knew that they had made the right decision to explore the forest. As the sun began to set, they realized it was time to return to the village. As they made their way back, they felt energized and excited, knowing that there was more to explore in the forest. They were eager to see what the forest had in store for them and what adventures awaited them. Chapter 2: The Hidden Path. The next day, Luna and Max woke up early, eager to continue their adventure in the forest. They packed a small bag with some snacks, water, and a map and headed out to explore the unknown. As they made their way deeper into the forest, they noticed that the trees were getting taller and the flowers were more colorful than ever before. Suddenly, Luna noticed something out of the corner of her eye. She turned to Max and said, "Look, there's a hidden path over there." Max looked in the direction that Luna was pointing and saw a narrow path winding its way through the trees. He asked, "Do you think we should follow it?" Luna nodded excitedly, and the two friends set off down the path. The path was overgrown with plants and bushes, and they had to duck and weave to avoid getting tangled up. As they walked further down the path, they heard strange noises coming from the trees around them. They stopped to listen and realized that the noises were coming from birds and animals that they had never seen before. The birds had bright colors and sang beautiful songs, while the animals had fur, feathers, and scales. Luna and Max continued down the path, and the forest became even more magical. The trees twisted and turned into fantastic shapes, and the flowers were like rainbows of color. They followed the path until it came to a small clearing, where they saw something they had never seen before, a shimmering portal. The portal was made of a glowing mist and seemed to lead to another world. Luna and Max stared at it in wonder, and suddenly they heard a voice from behind them. "Hello, young adventurers. My name is Olive, and I am the guardian of this portal. I see that you have stumbled upon my hidden path." Luna and Max turned around to see a wise old owl perched on a nearby branch. Olive continued, "If you want to explore the world on the other side of this portal, you must first prove yourselves worthy. Are you ready for the challenge?" Luna and Max looked at each other, determined to show Olive that they were up to the challenge. They took a deep breath and said, "We're ready." Chapter 3: The Enchanted Forest. Olive the owl smiled and said, "Good. Then let's begin. The challenge is simple. You must find the enchanted flower of the forest. It's a rare flower that blooms only once every 100 years and has magical powers. It's hidden somewhere deep in this forest, and you must find it before sunset." Luna and Max looked at each other, feeling excited and nervous at the same time. They had never been on a quest before, let alone one with a time limit. But they were determined to find the enchanted flower and prove themselves worthy of exploring the world beyond the portal. Olive gave them a map that showed the general area where the flower was located and some clues to help them find it. The map was old and tattered, and the clues were written in a language that they didn't understand, but Luna and Max were determined to decipher them. They set off down the path, following the clues and looking for any signs of the enchanted flower. They searched high and low, crawling through bushes and climbing up trees. As the sun began to set, they were starting to lose hope. They had searched every inch of the forest, and there was no sign of the flower. Just as they were about to give up, Luna noticed a small opening in the ground. She called Max over, and together they peered into the hole. It was dark and seemed to go on forever. Max said, "I don't think we should go down there." But Luna was curious, and she knew that they had to explore every possibility. She said, "We have to try, Max. The enchanted flower could be down there." With a deep breath, they climbed down into the hole. It was a tight squeeze, and they had to crawl on their hands and knees. After what seemed like hours, they emerged into a vast underground chamber. The chamber was filled with the most beautiful flowers they had ever seen. The enchanted flower was there, glowing brightly in the center of the room. They had done it! They had found the enchanted flower of the forest. Luna and Max picked the flower and carefully made their way back up to the surface. They were exhausted, but they felt a sense of accomplishment that they had never felt before. They had completed their quest and had proved themselves worthy of exploring the world beyond the portal. As they made their way back to the portal, they heard Olive's voice in their heads. "Well done, young adventurers. You have proven yourselves worthy. The world beyond the portal awaits you." Luna and Max looked at each other, feeling excited and ready for their next adventure. They stepped through the portal, ready to explore the unknown. Chapter 4: The Great Adventure. As Luna and Max stepped through the portal, they were transported to a world unlike any they had ever seen before. The sky was a brilliant shade of purple, and the clouds were fluffy and pink. The ground was covered in glittering jewels, and the trees were made of candy. Luna and Max were in awe, unable to believe their eyes. They looked around, taking in the fantastical sights and sounds of this new world. Suddenly, they heard a voice calling out to them. "Hello there, young travelers. Welcome to the land of wonders." They turned around to see a friendly-looking rabbit wearing a top hat and holding a cane. He introduced himself as Mr. Hops and offered to give them a tour of the land. Luna and Max eagerly accepted, and Mr. Hops led them through the candy forest, across the Rainbow River, and up to the Diamond Mountain. Along the way, they met all sorts of strange and wonderful creatures, like a singing bird made of ice and a dancing flower with rainbow petals. As they reached the top of the Diamond Mountain, Mr. Hops turned to them and said, "This is where our journey ends, my friends. But don't worry, there are many more adventures to be had in the land of wonders. I have a feeling that you too will have many more great adventures together." With a smile and a wave, Mr. Hops hopped away, leaving Luna and Max alone on the mountaintop. They looked out at the breathtaking view, feeling grateful for the amazing journey they had just experienced. As they began to make their way back to the portal, they talked about all the things they had seen and done. They realized that they had learned so much about themselves and each other on this adventure, and they knew that they would always cherish the memories. As they stepped back through the portal, they found themselves back in the forest where it all began. They looked at each other, feeling a sense of excitement and wonder. They knew that there were many more adventures waiting for them in the future, and they were ready for whatever came their way. With a smile, they turned to each other and said, "Let's go on another adventure." And with that, Luna and Max set off down the path, ready for whatever came next. Chapter 5: Lost in the Forest. Luna and Max had been wandering through the forest for hours, trying to find their way back to the portal. They had been so caught up in their adventure that they hadn't been paying attention to their surroundings, and now they were hopelessly lost. As they walked, Luna started to feel uneasy. The forest looked different from the way they had come, and she didn't recognize any of the landmarks. Max tried to reassure her, saying that they would find their way back soon, but Luna couldn't shake the feeling of dread that was creeping over her. As the sun began to set, they realized that they needed to find shelter for the night. They searched the forest for a suitable place to sleep and finally came across a small cave. It wasn't much, but it was better than sleeping out in the open. As they settled in for the night, Luna couldn't help but feel scared. She had never been lost before, and the thought of never finding her way back home was terrifying. Max tried to comfort her, telling her stories and singing songs, but Luna couldn't shake the feeling of despair. The next morning, they set out once again, determined to find their way back to the portal. They searched the forest for any signs of the path they had taken before, but everything looked the same. Luna started to panic, feeling like they were never going to find their way back home. Just when they were about to give up hope, they heard a faint sound in the distance. It was a soft melody, almost like a lullaby. They followed the sound, and it led them to a clearing in the forest. In the center of the clearing was an old oak tree, and sitting at the base of the tree was an old woman. The woman smiled at them and said, "Welcome, my dears. I've been waiting for you." Luna and Max were surprised. They had never seen this woman before, and they didn't know how she knew they were coming. But something about her kind face and gentle voice put them at ease. The woman explained that she was a forest spirit and that she had been watching over them since they first entered the forest. She knew that they were lost and had been sending them signals to guide them back to the portal. With her help, Luna and Max were able to find their way back to the portal. As they stepped through, they turned to the old woman and thanked her for her help. She smiled and said, "Remember, my dears, when you are lost, look for the signs around you. The forest has a way of guiding those who are lost back home." Luna and Max nodded, feeling grateful for the lesson they had learned. As they walked down the path, they felt a newfound sense of confidence and resilience. They knew that they could face any challenge that came their way, as long as they kept their eyes open and listened to the rhythm of the forest. Chapter 6: A Bittersweet. Goodbye. Luna and Max had completed their quest, and it was time to say goodbye to their newfound friends in the Enchanted Forest. They had grown close to the forest creatures and had come to love the rhythm of the forest. As they walked through the forest, Luna and Max stopped to say goodbye to each of their friends. They thanked the wise old owl who had helped them find their way, the mischievous squirrels who had played games with them, and the gentle deer who had led them to the hidden path. Each farewell was bittersweet, and Luna and Max felt a sense of sadness wash over them. They had become attached to the forest and the creatures who lived there, and they knew they would miss them dearly. As they approached the portal, they were greeted by the forest spirit who had helped them find their way back home. She smiled at them and said, "I see you've completed your quest. Well done, my dears." Luna and Max thanked her for all her help and guidance, and the forest spirit reached out to give them each a small seed. "These are enchanted seeds," she said. "Plant them when you return home, and they will remind you of the rhythm of the forest." Luna and Max took the seeds and thanked the forest spirit once more. They stepped through the portal, and as they emerged on the other side, they found themselves back in their own world. They looked around, feeling a sense of both familiarity and strangeness. The world they had left behind had seemed dull and lifeless compared to the vibrant colors and sounds of the enchanted forest. Luna and Max planted the enchanted seeds in their garden, and as they watched them grow, they felt a sense of connection to the rhythm of the forest. They knew that they would always carry a piece of the enchanted forest with them, and they smiled, feeling grateful for the adventure they had experienced. As the sun set on their garden, Luna and Max sat together, listening to the gentle rustling of the leaves and the soft chirping of the birds. They closed their eyes and let the rhythm of the forest wash over them, feeling content in the knowledge that they had found a piece of magic in their own world. Chapter 7: The Enchanted Forest Awaits. Years had passed since Luna and Max's adventure in the Enchanted Forest. They had grown up, gone to college, and started their own families, but they never forgot about the rhythm of the forest. One day, Luna and Max decided to take their children on a camping trip to the forest where they had their great adventure. As they set up their campsite, Luna and Max noticed that the forest seemed different somehow. The colors were brighter, the trees were taller, and the air was filled with a magical energy that they had never experienced before. As they explored the forest with their children, they realized that the enchanted forest had somehow grown stronger, more vibrant, and more alive. The forest creatures that Luna and Max had met on their previous adventure seemed to be even more present and welcoming, and Luna and Max knew that the rhythm of the forest was stronger than ever. As the sun began to set, Luna and Max gathered their children around the campfire and told them the story of their adventure in the Enchanted Forest. They spoke of the wisdom of the wise old owl, the mischievousness of the squirrels, and the gentleness of the deer. They told their children about the enchanted seeds that they had planted in their garden, and how those seeds had grown into a beautiful garden that reminded them of the rhythm of the forest. As Luna and Max's children listened to their parents' story, they could feel the magic of the forest surrounding them. They could hear the soft rustling of the leaves, the chirping of the birds, and the gentle hum of the forest energy. The next day, Luna and Max's children begged to explore the forest even more. They wanted to see everything that their parents had seen, to meet the forest creatures, and to experience the rhythm of the forest for themselves. As they wandered deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon a hidden path that led to a clearing. In the center of the clearing was a beautiful tree, surrounded by a ring of mushrooms. Luna and Max's children knew that this was a special place, a place where the rhythm of the forest was strongest. As they sat in the clearing, listening to the rhythm of the forest, they knew that they had found a piece of magic that would stay with them forever. They knew that the enchanted forest awaited them, ready to share its rhythm and its magic with all those who were open to it. And as they closed their eyes and listened to the soft rhythm of the forest, they knew that they would always carry a piece of the enchanted forest with them, no matter where life took them.